You're listening to the Wonder Women of Aviation.
Welcome to the Wonder Woman of Aviation. We're live at ICAST 2021 and we are back. It's so good to be back in Vegas. It's good to be in front of our aviation community, our airshow family. And I'm here with Karin Goulian. So for those of you that don't know who she is, an amazing Wonder Woman of Aviation. She is the CFO of Goulian Aerosports. Karin, thank you for being here. Thank you. Well, you're here. You obviously have to be here. Thank you for speaking with me.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure. It's awesome to be back in person with all of our airshow friends, to be honest. It's been way too long. I mean, we've seen some of them on the road this summer, but it's almost nice just to be able to sit down without being at an airport and chat with everybody. So we love it. We love it.
It's amazing. Like I said, it's just to get out of the virtual world, to actually be in front of people, to actually have interaction, which I want to lead into a little bit about Goulian Aerosports. And I see your husband's over there. We'll probably get him in here. She's the boss. He knows what to say. Tell me a little bit about Goulian Aerosports. What's your role? Obviously, there's a lot that's involved in being obviously supporting the team. Tell me a little bit about, what it is, who you are.
Yeah. So Goulian Aerosports, we're an airshow performer. Michael flies this little plane behind us and absolutely loves it. It's been doing it for over 30 years, which is a little hard to say. But I didn't initially start out in aviation with him, so I worked for my family business, which is something completely different, in a manufacturing business in upstate New York. And then I joined him just really helping out on the financial side of things, prying away all the financial stuff. See, I wanted him to focus more on the flying. And it just worked out that we work well as a team. Both Michael and I have worked for family businesses in the past. I worked for my mom and dad, and he worked for his mom and dad. So we kind of had that in common, which was kind of fun. And then my job just evolved from, helping a little bit with the finances to then, typical family business, worked with all logistics with airshow organizers to actually be a performer there. And then once we started getting some sponsors that were activating sponsorship with us, then I was heavily involved on how to activate their sponsorships, which was in a number of ways. And I'll give you an example. We were sponsored by Goodyear for many years, and Goodyear sells tires, right? But they also do aviation tires. So we would host a lot of their potential customers at air shows. And this was something completely new for them. They're like, why would you want to host at an air show? But it's a great family event. People that would be purchasing tires bring their families. They have super fun. They meet Michael. They sit in the plane. They watch a show. We wine and dine them. And we did that for probably 5 to 7 years with Goodyear. So every event was special. So I did a lot of that. And then, our team grew. So I let go of that a little bit and we hired other people to help us. And then other than Goodyear, we had other sponsors. So working with them, just trying to make sure that we're doing what they need to do to grow as a business. So that was kind of fun. And then once Michael started flying in what was called the Red Bull Air Race, which the air races, for those of you who don't know, there were 6 to 8 air races per year worldwide, and you would fly in a little plane like this, competing against 10 and 14 other pilots to be the fastest around a track, sometimes over water, sometimes at an airport. And I would just help logistically with that a little bit, but he had a completely separate race team. So when I went to those events, I went for a lot of times just for fun, which was great. Yeah.
I've never been, so they don't have the races anymore. I don't. So that's definitely something that I definitely want to explore. I want to talk a little bit about. So you have your CFO hat on, right? You've been in the business for over 30 years, but take it back to the beginning. When you and Mike first started, I'm just always curious because my husband is an airshow pilot, Patrick Mackley of Extreme Flight. And when I got into the industry, it was kind of like shocking and my heart kind of jumped out of my body the first time I saw him. And I'm still getting used to seeing him up in the air and not being afraid. So take me back to when you first met. Did you think he was just, okay, who's this crazy man who's doing all these, maneuvers in the air?
It was kind of a little bit of a paradigm shift for me because I met Michael kind of not associated with it, like not as a pilot. So I just met him as a person at a party. One of my roommates outside of Boston was actually a flight instructor at his school, and he's like, "Oh, you need to come to a party." And at the party, I met Michael, and I'm like, "Well, what do you do?" And he's like, "I'm a pilot, and we own this business." I said, "Oh, that's cool." I knew nothing about aviation. Okay, I've been on plenty of airplanes, but not that small. So that's kind of how I was introduced to it. And when he said he did aerobatics, I didn't know what aerobatics was. I grew up in upstate New York, and sometimes Michael says I grew up living under a rock, but we just didn't happen to have small airplanes where I grew up in Oneonta, New York. So going to my first air show with him, I was like, I can't believe you do this, And we got to go up in an airplane a few times, and I was like, this is the coolest thing. This should be illegal. How did they actually let you do this in the air? And I didn't understand it at all. So I didn't kind of get the bug for flying until much later, and I didn't really have time to do it. But now as a pilot, I think it's awesome, and I'm satisfied straight and level, but he still likes to go upside down. But really going back, we would just do smaller air shows. He'd get paid a little bit to help do it. But really, when he first started, he was just, flying a corporate, jets to make some money so that he can pay for his plane and do some aviation events. And then he was also competing at competitions around the U.S., and you don't get paid for that. That's just to go and you compete, and judges, it's like being an ice, it's like being an ice skater. You go and you get judged in the sky instead of on the ice. So between doing a few air shows and then doing his corporate travel and then doing the competition, he was pretty busy. And then, of course, his parents had the flight school, too. So all of that kind of mixed together kind of worked out in a way. And at first, I just thought it was the funniest thing. And, when he met my parents, it was the kind of thing where my dad looked at him and said, when are you going to get a real job? Which I'm sure you've heard before.
You are me.
Yeah.
That is my story.
Yeah. So far, we haven't had to have a real job yet. So that's kind of fun,
That's amazing. You're obviously successful in the industry. A lot of people look up to your husband, but also for myself, I look up to people like you. I was kind of reading a little bit about your bio. You've been in the industry, like e-commerce. You've done a lot of like building up businesses, it sounds like. So that transition from that, like you said, it was smooth, but it's really interesting, your journey along the way. And here you are, kind of CFO of Goulian Aerosports. That's an accomplishment.
Yeah, it's kind of fun because when I first came to this convention, I was running my own conventions in our family business. So I would steal all sorts of ideas from the airshow business into our business. And okay, you can't laugh, but our business was porcelain doll making. That was the manufacturing business we had. So we didn't make dolls, but we made all the parts and pieces so you can make your own doll. So it was a school in its own. And, I would come to this convention. I was like, oh my God, there's so much more we can do. So I was able to kind of work with this industry to kind of fold into all sorts of marketing ideas into our own business. And then the e-commerce stuff I've done, building websites and things like that, it was really my brother's company. I worked for him for 15 years building websites, and that's super handy when you have your own business to know how to do all that. So I was really lucky, yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I'm doing. Like I started building his website from scratch. I'm like, what am I getting into? But I absolutely love it. And marketing and, like you said, stealing the ideas, borrowing the ideas from other industries. Like we're more so comic books. So that's why a lot of ours, like it's centered around pop culture and comic books, which I do want to ask a question. So going back to, okay, you married this suave aerobatic airshow pilot. You've been in the industry for a while. When did you make that transition from, okay, he's transitioned into somebody that people look up to? When was your aha moment? Like, oh my gosh, what did I get into?
There was a couple of those, I think. And I'm sure this has happened to you, but I grew up in a very small town in upstate New York. And there's a great airport there. So we actually had an aerobatic box there for a while. But before that, we landed there a few times, and he would walk in and they're like, is that Michael Goulian? I was like, yeah. was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And I was like, okay, all right, yeah, that's cool. I think he's cool. And then, it was just like super random places where we would meet. So literally 3 months after we met, I had already planned to go skiing out west with my brother and a bunch of friends. And I was like, should I bring Michael? I don't even know if he skis. Should we do this? And my brother's like, yeah, bring him. It'll be fun. So we went it was in Alta in Utah, which is a great ski area. And we got there, and the first night we were by ourselves in a different hotel, and we check in, and of course the owner of the hotel is like, Michael Goulian, hey, how you doing? I'm like, wait a second.
We're in the middle of nowhere.
We're in the middle of ski country, and he was, and we just started chatting, and you don't realize how small the aviation community is once you start meeting these people that all know each other, and that's kind of when I was like, okay, this is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then I think when he was invited to compete in these Red Bull Air Races, which is global, that was kind of like the biggest aha moment. I'm like, this is amazing, to be able to do that and to have the people trust you to be able to do it safely, because they don't want to hire a pilot that's not going to be safe. So that was a big deal. And the Red Bull Air Race really, it was such a great experience, not just for Michael, but for myself. And my daughter absolutely loves traveling internationally now because of it. So yeah, that was super fun.
That is so cool. And it's that I've had a couple aha moments, which I want to just share with you. We were at one of the shows, Sun and Fun, which you let me use your trailer. Thank you. We were walking down, through the crowd, and a little kid saw him in his flight suit. Yeah, it was Sun and Fun. I'm going to tell her. Yeah. And he approached my husband. He's like, you're an airshow pilot? He's like, yeah, I am. He looks at Mike's, trailer. He's like, well, where's yours? Where's your trailer?
Oh, funny.
I was just like, he's like, I'm not there yet, kid.
Yeah.
So I think it's magical that all these kids look up to you. You're promoting the art of aviation. It's just something that you're passionate about, which I absolutely love. And I think most people can share that same passion for aviation. You did say you're a pilot yourself. Are you still currently flying?
I am. So I learned in 2006, and now I'm finally working on my instrument rating, finally. But our daughter is now 15, so I have a little more time to do it, which has been fun. And at our small airport in Plymouth, Mass, we just have a great aero club. We don't have airplanes, but it's a group of like 100 people that just love aviation, and we do just weird events. Like we do a flower drop where you fly over the airport and you drop flower and you try to hit a target from your plane. And we'll have parties and hot soup things where we'll have speakers, and it's a very social club, and that's really made it fun for me because it's a nice group of friends, and that's important when you're traveling so much, to have people that you have things in common with. And we're so busy in our business that it's nice to have people in common with, like at the airport, and we're working at the airport, so it's easy to see people and have some fun.
And it's nice that you kind of made it your own thing and you're not just a groupie, because sometimes that's how I feel. I'm like, okay, here I am following my husband.
No, I kind of felt like that in the beginning, though. I was like, am I going to be following you around the earth my whole life? Yeah, probably.
But I mean, I love what they do. I love what airshow performers do. It's definitely a sport that is not easy. It takes a lot of hard work. I wanted to ask you, from airshow wife to airshow wife, do you still have those moments where I said earlier, like where your heart jumps out of your body and you're like, okay? Or you're used to it?
I had that more at the Red Bull Air Race, just because it's a lot more unpredictable. When I'm watching Michael at an air show, it's very choreographed, which I'm sure you're used to. So, like everything he does, I know what he's going to be doing, and that obviously if something goes wrong, I'll know like instantaneously. And we're pretty lucky because with the air show things, and and we have very, very strategic partners of like homing engines and Champion. So all of these manufacturers, we work hard at promoting their product, but they also give us new product. So if something breaks on the plane, we don't fix it, we replace it. So, and that is huge peace of mind for me, because like if something breaks on the plane, I know we're not going to just piece it together with duct tape. We're going to actually replace it, and that's a huge thing. Where with the Red Bull Air Race, they're going as fast as they can, pulling as many G's as they can, and, it's super competitive. And, they were always safe about it, but you just never knew. It was just like, I'd be almost holding my breath for the minute and a half they'd be flying in the air. They're close to the water. They're, pulling G's. In the beginning, they were pulling like 11, 12, 13 G's, doing these crazy courses. Then they kind of calmed down a little bit on all of that stuff, and it did get safer over time. Right. And Red Bull was very, very good about safety stuff. So they would do a lot of like water train, like if they did have to land in the water, how do you they did water training, and so they did a lot of those kind of training things. So they had a huge safety kind of section of what they did, which made me feel better. But it was still it was still stressful. Yeah.
I'd be like crying the whole time. And like, no, I think I did cry the first time my husband flew.
Yeah. But we were lucky because most of the spouses were able to go. So we kind of had a nice tight-knit group of women. Well, all the spouses were women. So, there was only one woman air race pilot, but she wasn't married. So we would just all, take care of each other, I guess you could say, which was really nice.
You definitely have to stick together, especially in this industry, because it's just it's an ever-changing industry. Anything can go wrong, so you definitely have to stick together. What do you and your husband do? This is a fun question. Just to kind of unwind, your life is pretty fast-paced, go, pretty high energy, intense. What is a typical day at home when you're together? What do you do for fun?
Oh gosh. We work way too much.
That's me and my husband.
Yeah. So summertime, wintertime, definitely two different things when it comes to fun. Summertime, we try to travel outside of the air shows to do other fun things. We love Orlando and Disney and Universal and all that kind of crazy kid stuff. So we'll totally do that. We're not real beach people, but we love to do those kind of activities. Like between Christmas and New Year's, we're going to LA to do more Disney and do some fun things like that. It is fun.
Does Michael make you go on every single roller coaster ride like my husband does?
No, not. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. But really, on a typical day, we just love where we live. In Plymouth, it's a great town. It's not far from the ocean. We have great food and restaurants. So going home after work and just hanging out. And, my daughter's got tons of homework and helping her with things. And, just decompressing. We're gym people. We go to the gym a lot. Michael plays golf. I play tennis twice a week. So we have a pretty simple life, to be honest, when we're at home.
You're normal people.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I do lots of cooking and cleaning, just like anyone else. So it's like endless.
You have to wonder. I'm like, what do they do on their off time? It's like for us, I'm constantly creating ideas, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine, being at that caliber.
No, it's fun, and we have a school as well, and we have a little over 20 employees, and half of them are instructors, and we're never closed, so we're 24/7 talking to everybody and making sure everyone's being safe and trained and flying and all that. So it's fun.
Well, I wanted to thank you. Thank you for being on the Wonder Woman of Aviation podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be interviewed. Thank you.
I truly am all about empowering women and showing them that there's a place for us in this industry. It took me a little while to find my place, but I'm here and I'm just not going anywhere anytime soon.
All right. Well, best of luck with everything. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for listening to the Wonder Woman of Aviation. For those of you that do not know Goulian Airsports, Google them and you will find a ton of footage, a ton of information, and make sure that you follow them. See you next time.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others or post about it on social media.